Welcome to our annual general meeting of Coast Capital Savings, and thank you for being here this evening. My name is Bill Welburn, and pursuant to Coast Capital rules, as chair of the board, I'm chair of this meeting. In a few moments, I'll review how you can participate in the meeting. And once again, we have members and guests joining us by webcast, live webcast, and we welcome those viewers. Webcast participants can submit questions via the submission box on the webcast viewer during the meeting, and as best we can, we will include them during the members' open forum session later this evening. Now, does everyone have a meeting registration package which contains the agenda and related material? If not, we can get one to you. Good. So as we get underway I'm asking the members of the youth team if they can make their way to the podium. Just quickly, when you came in, you saw some young people here. One of the programs that we have at Coast is our youth teams, and we have 20, each year, 20 grade 11, grade 12 students who participate at Coast for a year. Their position starts July the 1st, and they're with us for the full year. In the summertime, they do training, and they take a position in a branch, full-time position during the summer, part-time during the rest of the year. They work as a service pro at a bank. That's called a teller, but we call them service pros. And they do the daily transactions that members bring to the branch and handle inquiries. It's a great position for them to hold. It's paid. And they, as well as working in the branch, they represent Coast at community events. They initiate a volunteer project, and at the end of the program, what they find is that they've had a great experience which has taught them a lot about leadership and teamwork, professionalism, time management, community awareness, which is important to us, communication and interpersonal skills, and service and financial literacy. So we have 4 of our youth members here tonight. Are they handy? They're out at registration. Oh, well, I'll bring them in later, and I'll introduce you, because it's really special, you know. These are just young people, and we've been doing this, as I say, since Coast was founded, and it's put a lot of young people through, and a lot of them have stayed on to work with Coast after they finished school or university. Anyhow, we'll move on then. Determination of compliance with the notice and quorum requirements. Our rules require that we have at least 50 members in attendance at a meeting, and we do have that here indeed. Thank you for coming. Advance notice of this meeting was first provided in September 2013 as part of the annual call for candidates for this year's director elections. This was mailed to all members in September and October 2013, and further details were provided in the 2014 Board of Director election and special resolution materials that were mailed to members in March 2014. Registration will be held open until 5:15 by our youth people. And once registration closes, I'll give a final tally of how many members are here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare this meeting duly constituted for the transaction of business. We want your participation at this meeting, and in order for this to happen most effectively, when the time comes, participants should approach a microphone. There's 2 in the center aisle. I'll recognize you by referring to the microphone number where you are standing. I'll then ask you to begin by stating your name and your branch affiliation, and I ask that you please speak as closely to the mic as possible so all members can hear you clearly, both here in the room and on the webcast. Moving to the appointment of parliamentarian and introductions, I'll start with introductions of the head table. To my right is Tracy Reddy's, Coast Capital's President and Chief Executive Officer. Next to Tracy is Director Glenn Wong, who is Chair of the Governance Committee, and next to Glenn is Director Christian Finley, Chair of the Nominations Committee. To my left is Lisa Skaken, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary, and far left is Linda Taylor, Secretary to the Board. And moving to appointments, I appoint Lisa Skaken, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary, as parliamentarian for the meeting, and I appoint Linda Taylor as Secretary for the meeting. We have many guests here this evening, and I welcome you. We also have in attendance 2 individuals who provide independent services to Coast on behalf of all members. Jeremy Jarman from KPMG and Jerry Delamattia the returning officer for this year's election and voting, and he will also be the scrutineer for this AGM. I now see young people. So, if you could just come up maybe in front here so everybody can see you, including the people on the webcast. I'll call you. We have Simran Johar. Come on right up front here because we have a camera on you. Angie DeHanda, Kate Atherton, and Graham McLean. Simran is at Timanowis Secondary, and she works at the Newton branch. Angie is also at Timanowis Secondary, and she's at Strawberry Hills. Kate is a student at Elgin Park Secondary, a student at Central City. And Graham is at Frank Hertz Secondary, and he works at Fleetwood. And I think we have 4 graduating grade 12 students this year, so congratulations. So. Thank you very much. So we'll move now to the approval of the standing rules. The rules are included in your registration package, and they set out how you may participate in the meeting. I'll just review some of the key points. Number 1 speaks to what the meeting wants to hear from you, and that's your questions and comments on the general business of Coast. And issues of a personal nature should be addressed to an appropriate executive or director, and we will remain available following this meeting for that purpose. Number 2 sets out eligibility for speaking, voting, and making motions at this meeting. Rules 3 through 7 describe how to go about providing your input. And once again, first you must be recognized by the chair and state your name and branch affiliation. This year's, the time limit for speakers has been increased to 3 minutes to allow for more time, and along with an extension of the meeting time, it's intended to provide more participation and by as many members as possible. Number 8, only resolutions that were submitted to the Board of Directors for review and consideration at least 90 days prior to this meeting may be considered at this meeting. Number 9 prohibits proxy voting and allowing someone else to use your voting card. And number 10 sets out the priority of the Credit Union and Corporation Act, Coast Capital's rules, the standing rules that we're looking at right now, and Nathan's rules of order, which we'll go to if all others don't cover. May I have a motion, please, to approve the standing rules? A seconder, please. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion's approved. Now, the motion to approve the agenda, if you refer to it, I'll present the Board of Directors report first. That will be followed by Tracy's report of the Chief Executive Officer. We'll then receive the 2013 Auditor's Report and the 2013 Audited Financials. Following that, we shall endeavor to appoint auditors for the current year. Under number 7, Christian Finley, the chair of our nominations committee, will report on the director nominations and recruitment progress and the results of this year's election. Under number 8, Glenn, chair of the governance committee, will report on the results of the 2014 special resolutions. And under number 9, members will have an opportunity to ask questions on all the reports that have been presented to the meeting. Closing remarks will follow, and the business meeting is scheduled to conclude at approximately 6:30, and that will be followed by the members' open forum. We are targeting a conclusion time of 7:15 rather than the usual 6:30. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Thank you. Seconder? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The minutes of our meeting held exactly a year ago today, April 30th, 2013, are in your package. The board reviewed and approved the minutes of last year's AGM on June the 11th, as required in the rules, and these minutes are now being presented to you for your information and to confirm there are no errors or omissions. May I have a motion to adopt the 2013 AGM minutes, please? Thank you. A seconder? Any discussion? Yes, sir. I recognize the gentleman at microphone number 2.
Actually, this is only small, maybe a small.
Sir, you're going to set the example tonight with your name and your branch affiliation.
400, 344, 343, 01.
Yeah, we don't want any numbers, just the branch that you bank at. Okay, go ahead, please.
On the minutes of the last, on the report of the last year's report, the CEO report under the 2012 key financial highlights achieved.
Yeah, you're looking at page 3 of the minutes under the CEO's report.
Number, page 3, yes, right. And those dots, the number 5 dot, stating that operating efficiency improved from 71.0% to 71.3% from 72.1%. I think there's some error.
Well, you know,
Either this is a decrease in the efficiency, or there is a reverse.
efficiency ratios are interesting because the lower they are, the better they are. It's the ratio of expenses to income. So we want it to go down, not up.
Okay, good.
But it's intuitive what you brought to our attention, but unfortunately it is counterintuitive.
My mistake.
Thank you.
All in favor then, well, we've done the motion, so did I call the vote on the motion? No, okay, thank you. All in favor of adopting the minutes of the 2013 AGM? Thank you. Opposed, if any? Thanks. Business arising, I'd like to give just a brief update on the Rashida Samji Ponzi scheme litigation. That was a subject of last year's meeting, and I thought this year's meeting should be given just a brief background and where things are currently at, as it has affected a number of members. So a little more than 2 years ago, and this was back in January 2012, Coast Capital senior staff received an anonymous tip from a person that chose to come forward to disclose their concern about an investment opportunity that seemed too good to be true. We investigated, and after the investigation, escalated our findings to the BC Securities Commission, and within a few days, this led to the collapse of a long-running Ponzi scheme that had been perpetrated by a former notary public named Rashida Samji. The scheme had been running since sometime back in 2003, and there were many people that had been taken in by Samji's supposedly tax-free 12% guarantee. Unfortunately, our investigation also uncovered that between 2000 and 2012, several Coast Capital members had also invested, many losing part or all of their money in this scheme. Several investors brought action against Samji, her companies, her bankers, Royal Bank of Canada and TD Canada Trust, as well as against a former Coast Capital employee and Coast Capital itself. Those actions are set for trial later this year. From the outset, Coast has been active in helping the parties to mitigate their losses and working towards a resolution of these claims. Over the past year, there have been extensive efforts to find a fair and appropriate resolution, the details of which are confidential to the actual parties involved and their respective lawyers. While this matter remains outstanding in the courts, it would not be appropriate to comment further than to say we remain committed to the process for resolution that recently saw all parties come together to share their perspectives. We shall now move on to the report from the Board of Directors. And I'd like to begin by thanking over 19,000 members who participated in a number of important governance issues by casting your ballots. Unfortunately, for most, corporate governance is not an engaging topic, and we sincerely appreciate the interest of those members. We also thank the thousands of members who participate, some regularly and some only on occasion, in member surveys on a wide variety of topics. We'll be talking about this later in the meeting, but now I'd like to begin by introducing your Board of Directors and then give an overview of our activities. On the screen, you see there's 10 of us all together, and there's the 10. So Doug Brownridge at the top left, Dan Burns. Dan is the chair of the Audit Committee. Robin Chakrabarty, Bill Cook, who is chair of the Risk Review Committee and also vice chair of the board. Christian Finley, chair of the Nominations Committee. Mary Jordan is chair of the Human Resources Committee. Susan Senecal, Chris Trumpy, myself, and Glenn Wong, chair of the Governance Committee. I should also note, too, that Susan Senecal is leaving the board at the conclusion of this AGM, and I thank Susan for her service on the board over the past 3 years. Susan is the Chief Marketing Officer of A&W Canada and has brought a lot of insights, and we've learned a lot from Susan. So thank you, Susan. As I mentioned earlier, directors will be available to you at the conclusion of the members' open forum, along with the executive team to speak with you. Do we have a count? I shall announce that. Yeah, I'm pleased to announce that we have registered members in attendance, a total of 179 this evening, which is a very good turnout, so thank you for that. People often ask just exactly what does the board do? So at a very high level, we listen to our members and we stay current with what's going on inside and outside of Coast and in the financial services sector generally. And as a regulated financial institution, the board must ensure Coast meets a very long list of statutory and regulatory requirements and guidelines issued by the Financial Institutions Commission of British Columbia. Those requirements and guidelines are intended to safeguard your money, something that we take very seriously at Coast. And just as the board or the regulator holds the board accountable, we too hold the CEO accountable for results on your behalf. And I'll just touch briefly on each of those topics. In regards to member input, our program last year was called Have Your Say, and we collect input from members in many ways, including focus groups, a very wide variety of surveys, old-fashioned branch comment cards, social media, employee surveys, and our 3,000 online member Tell Us What You Think Tank panel. In 2013, the Have Your Say program was very informative to us, and we learned a lot. The Ipsos survey that was held in late 2013 told us that nearly 90% of our members surveyed told us that they were satisfied or very satisfied with Coast Capital. They told us that the focus that we should have is on delivering products and services that help them. 85% of participating members believe there is value in their membership, something which Coast is planning to explore, understand, and enhance even further in the coming months. We ask what you want in your board of directors, and our nominations chair will tell you about this later in the meeting. We also promised a director compensation task force would be set up after last year's annual general meeting, and all members at Coast were invited to participate in that panel. And the purpose of the task force was to review director compensation and then report back to the broader membership, and that was done through the special resolution process. With on the side of regulation, since the international financial crisis of 2008-2009, our regulator, like all regulators, raised the bar on expectations of boards of directors, and we do applaud them for their vigilance. Most recently, our regulator introduced the FICOM governance guideline designed to provide guidance around industry best practices in corporate governance. I am pleased to say that Coast Capital is already in near alignment with the 2013 guideline, with the exception of director term limits and executive compensation disclosure for our Chief Executive Officer, and we'll talk about that shortly. Our regulator has very high expectations of each director, which I know personally, and holds the board of directors accountable for the strength, stability, and benefits that strong governance brings. Good governance is making Coast Capital stronger. And just as our regulator holds the board accountable for the safety and soundness of the credit union, so does the board hold management accountable for advancing our mission of simple financial help and our stated purpose of changing the way Canadians feel about banking forever. The board reviews and approves Coast Capital's strategy to ensure it aligns with both the directions members want Coast to move in and also aligns with the board-approved risk appetite for the credit union. The board oversees the implementation of the strategic plan and ensures Coast remains responsive to the products and services you want while making sure our regulators' requirements are met. I think one of the very important things about a credit union, Coast in particular, is on the community side. And in addition to being committed to our members and employees, Coast is also committed to supporting the communities where our members live and work. Unlike the competition, the banks, which typically give back about 1% to 2% of their net after-tax income, Coast invests 7% of annual budgeted pre-tax income in our communities. We truly want Coast to make a difference in the communities where our employees and members work and live. This year, past year in 2013, we invested $4.8 million in various community events and initiatives. And if you go back to 2000 when Coast was first formed, that total is now more than $50 million that we've invested in community. Our community promise is to help build a richer future for youth in our communities. It focuses on education, mental health, financial literacy, and family and social connections. One of the innovative and exciting ways that we continue to deliver our community promise is through our Young Leaders Council. This isn't the high school students we saw earlier. This is an older group. And we have 3 of these councils, one here in the Fraser Valley, one on Vancouver Island, and one in Metro Vancouver. Each of the 3 councils is made up of 8 members, 4 employees from Coast and 4 from the community. And the purpose of the councils is to help implement Coast's community leadership strategy, and in particular to provide guidance and recommendations on the community investment grants allocated to meet the needs of youth. Council members are 30 years or younger at the time of application to the council. They reside in the region of the established council and are engaged in their local community with current and previous community or volunteer experience. We thought it might be interesting for this meeting to give you a flavor firsthand, and tonight I am very pleased to have Kevin Keystone, who is chair of our Metro Vancouver Young Leaders Community Council. Kevin is going to join me on the podium for a few minutes just to speak about the council and how it operates. Kevin, if you could come forward, please. Kevin holds a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and is currently the Operations and Development Manager of Community. Please join me in giving Kevin a warm welcome. Kevin.
So I didn't know that there was going to be a screen in front of me, which can I just say is the coolest audio-visual invention ever, because it means that I can actually see the slides and I don't have to check, so that's awesome. Not to mention the fact that I'm currently staring at my own face, which is a bit weird, but all things considered, I am still thrilled, and thank you so much, Bill. I am still thrilled and deeply honored to be here tonight to tell you all a bit more about the Young Leaders Community Council and the good work that we are doing on your behalf. As Bill mentioned, last year I was a member of the Metro Vancouver Young Leaders Community Council, and this year I have the deep privilege and honor of serving as its chair. And I want to start by saying that it's actually hard to articulate how empowering it is for a young person to represent one of British Columbia's largest financial institutions. I mean, we know that Coast Capital Savings has nearly $15 billion under management and represents over 500,000 members across British Columbia. And so for me, someone who's under 30, to have the privilege, really, of being part of an organization like that and representing Coast Capital, I'm so glad to be here tonight so that I can express to you in person, in the flesh, here I am, and also on behalf of my council members, how deeply honored, deeply humbled, and grateful we are for this tremendous opportunity. And there we are in action. And that's what it looks like often, us meeting around a table, poring over grants, and during this past year, the 3 regional councils, Fraser Valley, the Island, and Metro Vancouver, we approved over $1 million in grants to youth-focused organizations in our communities. applause that I just initiated was totally self-serving. Through the Young Leaders Council, Coast is supporting youth-focused projects in a way that is truly by youth and for youth. As Bill mentioned, each council has 8 representatives, 4 Coast Capital staff members, and 4 community members, including myself, all of which are under 30 at the time of application. Our approach is inclusive, it's consensus-based, it's values-driven. We welcome young people from all walks of life to serve on the council. And as Bill mentioned, through our work, we make good on Coast Capital's commitment to build richer futures for youth in our communities. And tonight, I want to give you an example of one particular project that we helped in 2013. So I want to talk a bit about the Take a Hike program. We know that not every student fits into the mainstream school system. Drug and alcohol addiction, physical and mental abuse, criminal activity, low self-esteem, depression, trauma. Through a unique combination of adventure-based learning, academics, therapy, and community investment, Take a Hike is a full-time alternative education program that engages exactly these youth, these at-risk youth who are at risk of dropping out of high school. It engages them to develop their own path, one that is right for them, that empowers them, and gives them skills not only to finish high school, but also survival skills for life. And one of my favorite parts of being on the Young Leaders Council is reading letters of support. Honestly, I sometimes think that we spend half of our meetings crying because they're so powerful. They're so powerful. And I want to read you excerpts from one in particular from Clara Hughes, Canadian gold medalist Olympian in cycling and speed skating, tireless advocate for mental health, and a proud supporter of Take a Hike. And here's what she wrote in her letter of support. When I was a teenager, my focus was in the wrong direction. I didn't have my respect for myself or people around me. I was involved with drinking at a young age, drugs, and smoking a pack a day. Sport transformed me. It gave me a moral base. It taught me what goals are, what dreams are, and what work ethic is. So when I read the stories of the Take a Hike students, I understood that they had had that same transformation. Take a Hike is changing lives, just like sport did for me. I was one of those students that didn't care. That was me, and this is me now. There is a way out, and through adventure-based learning, Take a Hike is there to provide youth with an opportunity to turn things around, to give them the tools to become leaders, and to follow their dreams. We ought to be so profoundly proud of the life-changing work we're doing to support youth in our communities. And not only is it about outcomes, it's also about process. Process. At the Youth Vital Signs report card launch, David Dryden, who I believe is here with us tonight, he's former chair of the Fraser Valley Young Leaders Council. He and I had the opportunity to say a few words. That's his smiling mug right there. I'm sort of off-screen, pushed to the side on the corner. He didn't set it up that way, I swear. And so we had an opportunity to speak on behalf of Coast, and a youth approached us afterwards and said to us, it was so great, and said, I saw the two of you up there, and I had no idea that a bank could be so cool. And that's what the Young Leaders Council is about. When we align our values by youth, for youth, with our actions, we are authentic. We show up as cool as we truly are because, in case you missed the memo, we really are cool. And people notice this. They notice it, they are drawn to it, and so important for our cooperative movement, they want to be a part of it. So I'll be sticking around after the meeting tonight. If any of you want to know more about the Young Leaders Council, please don't be shy. I'm clearly not. I am so happy to chat more about the work that we are all doing together as members and as Coast Capital Savings to build richer futures for youth in our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I would now like to call upon our President and Chief Executive Officer, Tracy Reddies. Tracy, I believe you've been with us now for 5 years. Almost 5 of the best years of your life. Tracy has taken Coast Capital from where it was 5 years ago to where it is now, and it has moved a long way. So, Tracy, we look forward to hearing your remarks.
Thank you, Bill, and just want to give a shout out for Kevin Keystone. It's amazing how much enthusiasm he brings to the role, and we're just delighted to have people like Kevin representing us in the community. So thank you, Kevin. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we performed this year, and then talk a little bit about some of our strategies going forward. Coast had a strong year in 2013 in spite of a lot of changes and the continuing challenges in the economic environment. And I really do want to express our support, our appreciation for the support that we've had from our members through this last year. As a credit union, you know, our role is to serve our members and demonstrate that being a member of a credit union has real value. And we are committed to growing our membership and business to ensure that we remain relevant for you in the future. I'd also like to thank our staff who have supported us through a lot of change. And there is no doubt in my mind that you, our staff, are our secret sauce. And I feel very privileged to be your CEO. As Bill mentioned, this year I do celebrate my 5th year with Coast, and I can honestly say it has been an incredible journey. Having come from a major bank, I'm even more convinced now that the credit union model, which keeps members and communities at the center of what we do, is the right financial model going forward. And it seems like more and more Canadians also feel that way, judging by the growth that we've had over these last 5 years. So tonight our annual report is available for you to take home, so you can go online and read the full details of our financial results and our operating highlights, which you will see have been quite impressive. These results are a reflection of the terrific team that I work with at Coast, and I'd just like to acknowledge some of my talented colleagues on the executive committee. This is our group. I won't ask them all to stand because they're kind of shy. Not really. But they're all wearing yellow boutonnieres, and they would be happy to talk to you after the evening, so don't hesitate to talk to them. So we continue to face a low growth and uncertain economic environment. Yet despite this, Coast achieved normalized pre-tax income of $80.6 million. That's excellent news, but what does it mean to our members? Well, it means that we are well capitalized and have strong liquidity to keep our members' money safe. In 2013, we easily exceeded our government regulators' requirement of 10% with a regulatory capital ratio of 15.28%. Importantly, this also means we have more capital to invest in products, services, and technology to ensure our offering remains relevant for our members. And I'm very proud of the fact that over the last 5 years, we have been able to make significant investments in branches, systems, and products, while at the same time growing our membership and also growing our operating profit. Our strong financial results also reflect good business decisions made at the right time, including the sale of our insurance subsidiary to Western Financial Group, which in turn is owned by Desjardins, the largest financial services cooperative in Canada. This has increased our retained earnings, while at the same time improving member access to more insurance products. And very importantly, from my perspective, for our insurance employees, they now have many more career opportunities with a much larger insurance business. So it is a win-win. We continue to save our members money by offering our flagship free checking account. With free checking, we save our members more than $38 million a year in annual service fees. And that's money that members can put towards a new home, their child's education, or their retirement. And we do believe that this is how we are truly changing the way Canadians feel about banking forever. Membership growth at Coast remains on track. We now have 512,000 members enjoying our products and services. And further, Coast has one of the best net promoter scores among all BC credit unions and financial institutions. What that means is that Coast members are more than twice as likely to recommend Coast to a friend or a family member over any financial institution. And I believe that's really a ringing endorsement of the value that our members feel they're getting from Coast. Now, by far, our most significant undertaking in 2013, and frankly in our history, saw us implement a new banking system. Now, while this change happened as planned, it had a number of challenges. And we can certainly say that we asked a lot of our staff and our members during this time, so I really would like to express, again, my appreciation for your support and my apologies for some of the disruptions that you experienced. The good news is that we are starting to see efficiencies from the new system, and we have made significant improvements in the performance. And these efficiencies that we're seeing will also go a long way towards positioning Coast for the future to serve our members better. Now, as Canada's second largest credit union, we do take our leadership role in the credit union sector very seriously. This is why we're working on a number of initiatives with our credit union peers across the country to strengthen the system with the goal of ensuring Canadians have a very viable choice of where to do their banking. Coast is part of a national initiative called Humanomics, designed to help create a nation of smart savers and spenders. The first product under the Humanomics initiatives is the Humanomics Youth Savings Account, which is Canada's first ever bonus savings account. It's targeting 11 and 12-year-olds and pays a high rate of interest on deposits and also rewards those 11 and 12-year-olds for good savings behavior, with exclusive bonus payments that add up to as much as $125. So for those of you who are interested in helping your children or grandchildren start learning about money at an early age, I really do encourage you to check this account out. It'll be offered in our branches starting tomorrow and is available until June 13th. Other examples of credit union industry collaboration include our partnership with Desjardins, as I mentioned, Canada's largest financial services cooperative. We're working with Desjardins to leverage their product lineup and financing solutions and also existing distribution opportunities to help bring the Coast value proposition to more Canadians. Now, we do all these things with our credit union colleagues because it makes good business sense. It's good for the industry, and most importantly, it's good for our members. Now, we strongly believe that membership has value at Coast. This principle anchors our new 3-year corporate strategy, which will address growth opportunities, enhance Coast for the future, and better serve existing members, in addition to serving a new generation of banking consumers. More specifically, our 3-year plan focuses on transforming our organization for the future. There are 3 parts to our strategy, something we call Coast 2.0, Coast 3.0, and Coast Plus, all anchored by the overarching theme that membership has value. But before I go on, I want to explain a little bit how we got here. A few years ago, a couple of professors wrote a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, which describes companies that innovated their business and reduced costs simultaneously to create a whole new category of business. One chapter talks about Cirque du Soleil and how Guy Liliberte took the best of the circus and the theater and discarded the worst elements to create a brand new category of entertainment that today is in a class all of its own. I believe Coast has the chance to become the Cirque du Soleil of financial services, neither a traditional credit union nor a traditional bank, but a whole new genre of financial services, one that has at its core a deep commitment to employees, members, communities, and credit union values, but one that is also rooted in innovation and providing real value to members that they wouldn't see at other financial institutions. We believe membership has value is our next big innovation, like free checking, and we want it to convince more bank customers to switch to Coast. Membership has value will also differentiate Coast from others in our industry and reinforce our reputation as a disruptive innovator, ready to meet the challenges of our industry, develop the next generation banking experience for our members, and continue to develop on our purpose, which is to change the way Canadians feel about banking forever. Now, turning to Coast 2.0, in a nutshell, this is all about doing what we do better. Under Coast 2.0, we are going to continue to streamline processes and policies and make it easier for staff to win the business and trust of our members, and also to deliver more simple financial help. And later this year, we will be implementing a state-of-the-art contact center technology to support our members' needs wherever they go, and in particular, those members who are increasingly interacting with us through direct and mobile services. This is a multi-million-dollar spend that we believe is essential to ready us for the needs of the 21st century consumer. Coast 3.0 will also build on our existing foundation and position us to serve that new consumer, in particular the Generation Y and Generation Y entrepreneurs. Now that we are through our banking system conversion, we can really focus on bringing innovative products and services back to the forefront to serve our members in a manner that fits their lifestyle, and we're very excited about this. It's also very critical to our future success. Today, the average banking consumer goes to a branch 2 to 3 times a year, but if they have a mobile banking application, they're checking their accounts 20 to 30 times a month. So we really have to learn to be able to serve this customer anytime, anywhere, and leverage the fact that we are with them every day, wherever they go, at any time of the day. We're there on their smartphone. So this is the future of retail banking, and we have to be able to respond to it. Delivering e-transfers in our Android phone application earlier this year was just the beginning. We're now focusing on delivering additional mobile and electronic services such as deposit capture, e-statements, real-time mobile budgeting tools, and enhanced online and mobile services for our business customers. Our members of the future, the Generation Y and Generation Y entrepreneurs, are really shaking up the established business models throughout our economy. And I believe there's a tremendous opportunity for a financial services organization that can provide additional value-added help in a manner that is all about convenience, and we want to be that organization. Now, Coast Plus is about bringing our value proposition to more markets in Canada over time. We'll be looking at innovative ways to grow our business both within and outside the credit union system and in BC as well as other parts of Canada. I can't understate the importance of ongoing growth to our organization. We've invested tens of millions of dollars over the last 5 years to upgrade and build new branches, to improve our technology, and to provide members with great products and services, all the while growing our operating profit in a very tough economy. And we've done that because we've been able to grow our relationships with our existing members and attract tens of thousands of new members to Coast. And it's this growth that has fueled our success and has enabled us to continue to invest in our business for the benefit of our members. So growth is fundamental to our ongoing success, and we must look for ways to grow not just within BC, but also outside of BC if we are to continue to remain relevant to our members in the future. Recent additions to the federal credit union regulation will make it easier for credit unions to grow outside the province, and I believe there will be exciting opportunities to work with like-minded organizations who, like us, believe that the 8th cooperative principle should be about growth to serve our members better. So in the coming months, we'll be evaluating these growth opportunities, and we'll continue the very important dialogue with staff and members to make sure that as we grow, we continue to keep your interests at the forefront of what we do. Finally, membership has value that will differentiate us in the marketplace so we can grow sustainable relationships with our members, but more importantly, make a meaningful difference in our members' lives. And this is the opportunity to be that Cirque du Soleil of financial services that will serve Canadians better and truly change the way they feel about banking. In closing, I really do want to thank again our 512,000 members, our wonderful staff, many of whom are here tonight. I couldn't do this without them. I'd like to also recognize our Coast leadership team and also the board for their ongoing support in 2013. With all the things that we have planned for the next 3 years, I really do believe this is a great time to be at Coast Capital Savings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. We'll now move to the receipt of the auditor's report and the 2013 audited financial statements. The annual report contains the auditor's report at page 45, and KPMG has provided an opinion in that report. And I'll just read the most important part of the opinion, although they would say it's all important. The consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union as at December 31st, 2013, and of its consolidated financial performance and its consolidated cash flows for the year ended in accordance with international financial reporting standards. Ladies and gentlemen, our CEO has provided you with some of the highlights of last year's financial performance. You will also find a detailed management discussion and analysis in the annual report. It contains a comprehensive review of the financials. As required by legislation, the board has approved the financials that are in the annual report, so I will declare the receipt of the auditor's report and the financial statements. Moving now to approval of appointment of auditors. It is your board's recommendation that the firm of KPMG LLP be appointed auditors for the year 2014. May I have a motion to appoint KPMG as auditors? Thank you. Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. KPMG says thank you. And I confirm that pursuant to Rule 17.2 that the auditor's remuneration is set by the Board of Directors. We'll now move to the report of the Nominations Committee on the election of directors, and I will introduce once again Christian Finley, the chair of our members' nomination committee. Christian.
Thank you, Bill. I want to start by thanking our members for participating in the director's survey last fall. Your feedback to us was very thoughtful, and it really gave us good insights for your nominations committee to consider in interviewing and profiling candidates for the board. I also want to thank members for voting in this year's election, and I want to thank the 12 candidates who chose to put their name on the ballot and stand for election. We had a record number of members who participated in the nominations process this year, either as potential candidates, as candidates with their names on the ballot, or as nominators. And that clearly shows that there are many members of COAST who care not just about what they get from COAST, but they care about contributing to the success of their credit union. So thank you for that. The director's survey was used to engage members and find out what you wanted to know about prospective board candidates. And I'd just like to share with you some of the key highlights of what we learned. First, much of the information you want, like work history and community service and education, is already included as part of the comprehensive evaluation process we go through with candidates. 60% of respondents ranked hard business skills, especially experience in finance, treasury, and banking, as one of the top 3 areas for candidates to demonstrate. Experience and commitment in the area of corporate social responsibility also ranked high as something members really wanted to see on their representatives on the board. Members wanted to know about candidates' vision for COAST, and this was incorporated into the interview process, as well as appearing in the personal candidate statements that you saw in the election booklet for each of the candidates. And finally, the majority of members told us that they clearly prefer to receive their candidate information in the booklet form that they receive now. However, there was some interest indicated in online videos of candidates, and we'll take a look at how that could be incorporated next year. The Nominations Committee's role is to provide a service to our members. We're responsible for helping you, our members, to ensure that your board has both the qualifications and the right set of skills to keep your credit union strong and responsive to your needs, both now and in the future. The process of seeking qualified candidates begins each summer, and it follows all of the requirements of our provincial regulator, FICOM. So first, we identify which specific skills and attributes are needed on the board to serve members' best interests in the coming term. This is called the Ideal Director Candidate Description. In the fall, we mail out a brochure to all of our members, identifying what we're looking for in prospective candidates. At the same time, your nominations committee seeks out qualified candidates in the broader community who match that description. So for the 2014 to 2017 term, we're looking for director candidates with specific skills and experience in 4 areas: corporate social responsibility, understanding the small and medium-sized business community, human resources and compensation practices, and leadership experience on significant boards. The committee's recommendations to our members focused on those skills and also considered personal attributes such as ethics and good judgment, and a desire to maintain diversity on the board as a whole. This year, there are 3 director terms expiring, and that means 3 board vacancies to be filled. Voting took place from March 14th to April 8th, and I'm pleased to share with you these results for each of the 12 candidates. We received a total of 19,532 ballots, with 17,857 ballots being declared valid. As you can see on the screen, the top 3 candidates each received over 10,000 votes, well ahead of the rest of the candidates. Based on these results, I declare Mary Jordan, Robin Chakrabarty, and Faye Whiteman to be elected to the Board of Directors following the conclusion of this evening's annual general meeting. Congratulations, Mary and Robin and Faye. And a big thank you again to all of our candidates for putting their name forward for election. Now, this is the part of my report that I enjoy the most. For the past 4 years, we've encouraged members to vote by committing $1 for every vote cast to a local charity. This year's charity was selected by our Young Leaders Council, and you heard about the great work that Kevin and his colleagues are doing in our communities. Breakfast for Learning BC is the local chapter of Canada's largest charity focused on child nutrition. This organization provides grants, program support, and nutrition education resources to schools to help ensure a healthy start for kids who may otherwise attend school malnourished. I'm pleased to honor the full commitment of $40,000 to Breakfast for Learning. And I'd like to invite Lisa Waring, who's the provincial coordinator of Breakfast for Learning for BC and Yukon, to accept a check on behalf of Coast Capital Savings.
Well, the picture is being taken. I'm back. How's the temperature in the room? I see some people fanning themselves. I think that the general view is it's a touch warm in here, so if Mr. Sheraton could turn down the heat a bit, or turn up the air conditioning. Thank you. So we shall move on now. The next and final report of the evening is the report of the Governance Committee, so I'll ask Glenn Wong to come up to the podium, please.
Thanks, Bill. It's Glenn, not Kevin. Kevin's not here anymore. Similar to Christian's comments, I too would like to thank all the members who voted on the 8 special resolutions and for sharing their thoughts on some very important governance issues. With nearly 20,000 ballots cast, we have received feedback from our membership, and we will continue to seek members' input on topics of interest to them. Before I provide the results, please allow me to offer a quick recap of the 2013 special resolution. It led to the creation of the Director Compensation Task Force this last fall. Last spring, a year ago, a member resolution was passed, giving all members of Coast Capital Savings the ability to approve any future changes to director pay. In addition, while individual director remuneration was already shared online, it will also be published in the paper version in the annual report. The board took the results of the resolution to heart. They recognized that this was a topic of interest to members and established an independent task force on director compensation. The mandate was to review the 2007 member-approved director remuneration philosophy and recommend whether any future changes or further changes were needed. The task force was comprised of 7 member volunteers with support from an independent third party. In addition to attending meetings and lengthy discussions, task force members read more than 1,000 pages of studies and information and heard from various experts and stakeholders. These included representatives from Coast Capital, our government regulator, a member who's with us tonight, as well as governance and other compensation experts. They individually put in over 60 hours over last Christmas to do this for us. The task force submitted its report and recommendations earlier this year. The report was published on the Coast website for all members to review. And the task force recommended a new approach to the philosophy guiding director compensation, which was brought forward to the membership for a vote from March 14th to April 8th of this year, 2014. The board very much thanks the members of the task force for their dedication in representing the membership and for making the effort to understand a very complex issue. The time and commitment shown by your task force members was remarkable and clearly demonstrated their passion for our credit union. Now, in addition to bringing forward the recommendations of the Director Compensation Task Force to the membership for a vote, the board also recommended 3 special resolutions. These included votes on director term limits, board and executive compensation disclosure, and our election processes as they relate to campaigning. There were also 4 resolutions brought forward by 4 individuals. Voting packages with detailed information about all 8 resolutions and the task force report were mailed to all eligible voting members in mid-March. The board, as your elected representatives, had a responsibility to clearly articulate its position on the 4 individual resolutions. Voting on the special resolutions took place from March 14th to April 8th. And just to remind everyone, the threshold for special resolutions is that they require a 2/3 majority to pass. And here are the results. As you can see, none of the 8 special resolutions received and required the 2/3 majority, or 66.67% required. This means none of them have been approved by the membership to proceed. This is an interesting and unprecedented outcome. There's no clear mandate from the membership on any of the topics presented. Regardless, your board needs to truly reflect on these results and chart the course that best respects the members' votes and also ensures that Coast is able to meet its strategic objectives and continue to be successful in the long run by serving members. On this note, your board chair will provide comments on the board's response to the special resolution results and our next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Ladies and gentlemen, these governance issues are complex and they're important for the future of Coast. The board appreciates the time members took to get informed and have their say, and we sincerely thank you for voting. Since none of the 8 resolutions passed, we must look at charting the path forward, which includes fulfilling the guideline provided by our regulator. Our current campaigning regulations will remain, which means each and every member will continue to receive the same template of information on each and every candidate seeking election to the board. We will follow the FICOM guideline and disclose CEO compensation in our 2014 annual report. We will work towards implementing term limits in accordance with the FICOM guideline. And for director compensation, the 2007 ordinary resolution and the 2013 special resolutions remain in effect, and we will respect this. Now, we know members have a wide range of opinions on director compensation. The board will seek to find a compensation formula that has the support of members and also ensures expert and sound corporate governance. We will continue to look at this issue and provide members with an update in the coming months. Our members can rest assured that they will be able to vote on any future changes to director compensation. On behalf of the board, I thank you for taking time to have your say and sharing your thoughts on governance at Coast. Now, we'll now move to questions on reports, and you've received a number of reports this evening, 5 in total. There was the report, my report from the Board of Directors. There was Tracy's report, Chief Executive Officer. You received the Auditor's report along with the 2013 financial statements, a report of the Nominations Committee, and a report of the Governance Committee. So we welcome your questions on these reports at this time. If you have questions or comments outside of these reports and of general interest to members, please hold off until the members' open forum, which will follow the business portion of the meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, I recognize the speaker at microphone number 2.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Mark Latham. I'm at the branch downtown Vancouver. I have a question for you on the report of the board, the first report. I'm glad that you gave emphasis to community investment. I'm glad you see it's important. I agree. My question is whether you think there's a correlation between two statistics. If you compare Coast Capital with Van City, comparable size, 500,000 members, similar size credit union, Van City, Coast Capital has less than half the community investment that Van City does. And Coast Capital directors, the board pays itself about twice what Van City board is paid. I wonder if you think those two are correlated.
Well, to your first point on community investment, I can't comment on relative numbers because I don't know what numbers go into their community investment. I do know what numbers go into our community investment. So at this point in time, I just got to claim apples and oranges. I can't explain that. In terms of the director compensation, our compensation at Coast is driven by a 2007 member-approved director remuneration philosophy. And for those who don't recall, that philosophy was approved, and it sets director compensation at a midpoint. And that midpoint is between the top of cooperatives and the bottom quartile of like-sized public companies. In other words, we look at the top cooperatives. Cooperatives tend to pay, well, they do pay less than the public company sector. So between the cooperative sector and the small size public companies, we go right down the middle. And there's a lot of discipline around this because it requires every 3 years a outside compensation specialist consultant come in, do the research, and bring the amounts forward to the board for consideration. Last year that process was done and compensation was changed, and I'm sure you recall it was changed downwards, south. So that's where we stand right now. Now, in terms of compensation paid at another credit union, that's up to those members to decide. And every credit union has a process. We chose a process that we thought would allow us to attract a highly talented board of directors. And you know, since 2007, when we brought forward this compensation plan, we've been able to bring on a total net of 8 new directors on the board. As a matter of fact, over the past 7 years, I think we brought on a total of probably 9 or 10, and some have cycled off after one term. So when you look at the Coast Capital Board, it has an average tenure, which is probably amongst the lowest in the credit union system, and I'm very content and pleased with the caliber of directors that we've been able to attract to Coast. So in terms of comparing to another credit union, I choose to go back to our member-approved remuneration philosophy. I recognize the speaker at microphone number 2. I'm sort of trying to do this in terms of how long you've been standing.
Thank you very much. I'm Lisa Barrett, and I'm a member at the North Vancouver branch, and also stood for election as a candidate. And previously was a director for 6 years at the Van City Credit Union, and so I do know something about the director remuneration policy there. And also that in terms of attracting talent, I think in terms of a credit union, we really should be looking more on the value side, that we should be hoping to attract directors that are seeking to contribute their expertise to the specific kinds of activities that credit unions undertake, of course, along with having their financial expertise. So, but that wasn't what I was going to talk about. That was just in support of the last speaker. As a candidate, I must say, speaking to the report on the elections, the changes that were made, making it much more stringent for candidates to communicate their candidacy, it left me embarrassed a number of times when people would communicate with me via LinkedIn or some other social media or even just an email. I couldn't confirm, first of all, that I was a candidate. That was prohibited by the rules. Secondly, in my communication back to them, I had to be very careful what I could say. I could only redirect them to the rules that Coast Capital had set up, in which I'm prohibited from discussing anything in writing or confirming that I'm a candidate. So it makes it very difficult when you've got a big brochure with an full extra page endorsing the recommended candidates on the premise that we all have an equal say in the brochure. In fact, we don't. So when I heard the opening remarks about, comparing us to Cirque du Soleil, I wasn't quite sure if that was, apt or completely ill-considered when you think of the contortions that the rule makers had to go through, the gymnastics to create that circumstance. Just my experience.
Thank you for your comments. And different credit unions pursue their board of directors in different ways. And to the values question, I'm somewhat troubled by that because you might be suggesting that we don't pay attention to values, which is so far from the truth. So values are extremely important to Coast. I'll now go to the speaker at microphone number 1. Now, we were supposed to have a time clock going just to help us control the time so everybody has an opportunity to speak. So, yeah, there we go. So you can see that's to help you and me, speaker number 1. So, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that wasn't intended to just restrict me rather than the others. Because
No.
I thought the others had done quite well.
Indeed,
and
they have.
I hope I'll do the same.
And the clock doesn't start until you've introduced yourself.
My name is Ken Jones, and I'm from the White Rock branch. I've been a member of the White Rock branch since 1972, 42 years. I actually started in the credit union movement at grade 5. I think that was about 1951 with a junior savings account, which I'm very, very pleased to hear the announcement that tomorrow they'll be starting a program like that. It was very effective in getting our young people interested in finance and interested in doing things like I did. I had a paper route. I wanted a 3-speed Raleigh touring bike. It was going to be $75, and that I took to my credit union, got a loan, and I was able to actually pay it off in advance because of the bonus payments, the tips at Christmas time. So I was very proud that at that age I was already establishing a credit rating. Now I'll get on to my questions.
Please.
I hope my timing will now start. I'd like to ask the credit union to get back to the basics that we always felt across this country and across the world that credit unions were based on, and that is low mortgage rates and interest payments that were the highest for deposits that you put in of your money, your hard-earned money. And I'm glad to see that we finally got rid of the insurance side of things, because basically that is getting away from that mandate that of simplicity that we should be working towards. The other criteria was that we would establish on an annual basis the payment of dividends from, in other words, you take the profits and you distribute them to all of the members based on their participation in the form of mortgage or deposits. I think that I'd like to ask the CEO and yourself, Board Chairman, to tell us, when are you going to take us back to those basic operations and pay us some dividends?
Okay, I'll split your question, Ken, with Tracy. And just to give some background on patronage dividends, when you look back at the 3 credit unions that came together to form Coast, one of them did in fact pay patronage dividends. And when we came together, we went to the members of the day and said, shall we continue paying a patronage dividend, or should we take that money, build our capital, because capital was thin after the merger, and use excess to reinvest back into community? So that was the way we've approached it. Now, to your question on low mortgage rates and high deposit rates, something we all wish to participate in. Tracy can speak to that along with how we've sort of made up on the patronage side through products. So, Tracy.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Nice to see you again. I think you asked this question last year. Okay.
Mike, please.
Mike, please. Okay, thank you. Nice to see you again, Ken. I think you asked this question last year as well, so I'm only going to give you the same, probably the response, maybe not the one that you want. But When we did our research, and this is before my time, to be honest, what people didn't find that the dividends were high enough or large enough to be of any value. And so the decision was made to go to free checking, which, as I mentioned in my report, is saving our members about $40 million a year, and we've saved our members well over $100 million. And so that's what we went to. I think that's the way the majority of our membership still feels. Having said that, we're always out and survey with our members, and certainly it's something that we can raise again. And as far as interest rates are concerned, well, we can't get much lower on mortgage rates, or else we're going to be out of business. But we're trying to manage. We do understand that credit unions are different. We do want to do the right thing by our members. And it's a difficult rate environment out there, so there is a very, very thin spread. But at the end of the day, I think our rates are very competitive, and we hear what you say, and we always take that into consideration when we're looking at our rates.
It's very, very difference between. There's quite a variance between the mortgage rate that you're charging and the deposit rate that you're taking money in. So you should be able to find a very, very smaller margin between those to operate the credit union.
But that might.
It's not like you have to pay shareholders or pay out to try and raise this money. You've got your deposits coming from all of us, and you're only paying us. Well, it's hardly anything.
I think
the result is the mortgage rate should be coming down comparable to that.
The mortgage rates have come down significantly over the last few years, and that's just being dictated by the market. But look, I hear what you're saying. Again, if we didn't, we have to have a bit of spread in order to finance our operation, and if we don't have that, then we can't do things like free checking. So it's kind of a zero-sum game in some respects. But I'm happy to talk to you about it afterwards.
Let us lead the market. Let's not follow the market.
Thank you, Ken. Speaker at microphone number 2, please.
Thank you. My name is Raj. I've been a member in Newton branch since 2006. I'm quite happy with your customer service, and the service offered, I'm pretty happy. But I have a problem. I've got I feel that the election you conduct is not very fair. The process in which we conduct the election is not fair. I recommend that some changes could be made there. The thing is, since 2006, I've been voting, and I find that all the time when you read that, I independently read each candidate's resume, and before that, the bank itself indicates that this is our favorite candidate. I think that is not fair. So why I suggest you, I'm not accusing the bank that they have been election supported or something like that, went negatively, but that suppose a particular person who is very lazy then won't read it. You sit and say, okay, fine, this candidate is going to win, okay, let's put the vote for him. So I think I have a couple of suggestions which I'm short of time how to explain. Using certain mathematical form, either bank could have some particular specific percentage and the rest could be given to the voting, but in no way I suggest that banks should not back a particular person. No statement in your, the pamphlet you send about the resume, bank should not state that we back this particular person. I think that's not very fair. And
thank you. I'll have the chair of our nominations committee respond to your concerns, and perhaps she can just...
I think it's a long thing to be discussed. I think I could sit with her and discuss one of these days if you provide, and I can give a solution, okay. different solutions. And then they can write back to the people and accept one of the solution. I think that would be, if Christian could give me some time, I'm with voluntarily, I can do some suggestion to her.
Raj, I'd be happy to meet with you after the meeting.
That's nice. That's nice.
Thank you.
My second concern is when you go to the bank, the time taken to get our service, it takes pretty long in all the banks. I think there is, again, I have a solution. I think we should speed up the process by which how long we can stand in the line and
Yeah.
shortcut down the shot. And the third thing is, the bank always says we are green, but it's just painting green. We are not going to make it green. Because in my bank counter, the quantity of light is too much. It's overly. I think we should control expense of electricity in each. The quantity of power supply we are supplying to the, being used in the counter in the bank should be cut down. I think that economically is also a third concern. That also I can give some suggestions.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
Be happy to talk to you afterwards, Raj.
Thank you.
Sir, speaker at microphone number 1, please.
Yeah, my name's Robert Colvin. I bank at Central City.
Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Robert Colvin.
Thanks, Robert.
I bank at Central City, and I got 2 questions for you. One.
This is on reports, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, on the reports on governance, the resolutions
Yes,
that were
please.
not passed. Okay, so in your remarks when you were describing those resolutions, you thanked everyone here for the time they put into, voting and coming up with the resolutions and so on. Okay, but in the booklet that describes the resolutions, you really, whoever wrote the booklet trashed the people who came up with those, the second 4 set of resolutions. So it seems like there's a bit of a disconnect. And in fact, the report said that there was a small group that was wasting the time of other members. And so yet you thanked us for the time we spent. So if you could explain that. And the second question I had is on the resolutions themselves. I just wondered if you could explain to us the thinking that went into the first set of resolutions, the first 4, which I understand were approved by the board, which seemed to, in a pale sort of way, mirror the second set of resolutions. And it just seems to me that an objective way of looking at that, they were designed to get the result which you got. So if you could explain the thinking there.
Thank you, Robert. In terms of thanking the members for participating in the democratic process, that is sincere, and we do appreciate the time that people took. As it turned out, none of the resolutions passed, but just to address your comments on the 4 or my comments on the 4 resolutions, if you go through them. Glenn, do you want to take this one? Because you've been closer to it than me, so.
Sure. First of all, I think the thanks was to all the members because, there were 8 resolutions here and 12 candidates. It was a lot of reading. So that was unprecedented, and that was a genuine, heartfelt thanks from the staff who had to work on this and the board as well. It was a lot of work for everybody, and we just wanted to recognize that. So that's the thanks for all the members of really caring about Coast to take that time. In terms of the 4 resolutions that were proposed by Coast, the one thing we wanted to make absolutely clear was the view of Coast on how things ought to be. And I appreciate that, individual members put a lot of effort and a lot of thought and a lot of research into their resolutions in some cases. The challenge is, as I've learned from last year in the director's compensation, is that the information isn't always balanced. We're trying to deal with, and we will meet or exceed the FICOM governance guideline. And we're also trying to do this in concert with our fellow credit unions. So there are a few nuances to them. So while the special resolutions, the first 4 and the second 4, parallel each other, I think the net takeaway for me and the board is that members, A, care a lot, and there's some issues that we need to continue to talk about. And one of the things that we need to all commit to over the next year and years, because none of the resolutions passed, right? We don't have one single of the 8 that we can say that met to 2/3 majority, that's the position. But I think common sense for all of us as members would say, we need to continue to talk about this. We need to figure out what's the right balance of, from director term limits to compensation to executive and compensation disclosure. We need to find the right balance. And I'll tell you that one of the reasons I'm so personally grateful to the members' task force on director compensation was that they were allowed to look at the same data that the governance committee was allowed to look at, but we're not allowed to release publicly because we get it on a confidential basis. So all the task force members had to agree that they would keep it confidential. And the great thing was we had 7 volunteer members that were able to look at the same data, the same information, and come to their own conclusion. So on the 4 resolutions, the first 4, the second 4, you know, we need to keep the dialogue going. We need to keep listening and try to figure out what is that right balance on all these very complex issues. They are related. And there's a lot of consequences to many of them. And the one thing that we wanted to make sure of was that we were very clear about what the point of view of Coast was. And I think that's only fair to the membership there, that there is no ambiguity. Because there are consequences to special resolutions, and we just want to make sure that it was very apparent, very transparent, and that members could decide in full knowledge of what the consequences were.
Thank you, Glenn. Speaker at microphone number 2, please.
Hello, my name's Scott Christensen. I'm one of those members who actually proposed one of those special resolutions, number 6, the one on executive compensation. I want to thank you all for, in your special resolution booklet, you actually said very clearly to me that you agreed with my special resolution number 6. So I'm a little confused why you would create a shadow resolution to say, which said that they were doing exactly the same thing. So I appreciate that you did like and respect my resolution that we should expose and report on executive compensation as per FICOM's specifications. You do agree with that, so why create a special one that sounds very much like mine? It seems like it would almost I wouldn't say intentionally, but it would cause a split of vote. And also, when you, even though your special resolution said that they were the same, when you look at the fine detail, I actually said we should, to the extent permissible by law, which is we should show, just like in any publicly owned company, the exact remuneration for each of the top executives. In your resolution, which sounded the same, you were actually stating the status quo, that we should do the wrap-up of the 9 executives, the top 9 executives. So they're not really the same thing, but they sounded the same when you didn't look at the fine print. So first of all, I'd like to ask, why would you create one? If you agreed with my resolution, why create a shadow one? And then why did the actual fine print not match the summary at the beginning of the booklet?
Thank you, Scott. Glenn?
Well, thanks, Scott, for the question, and thanks again, because I believe you put in a lot of research into this as well. It was well thought through.
I did. Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, no, thanks. Welcome to my life, or lack thereof. You know, one of the things I tried to say earlier was that we're just trying to find the balance, and I appreciate that, you know, your efforts. We're also trying to balance a couple things here in addition to that. One are these FICOM governance guidelines, and I don't want to make it sound like it's a big onerous thing, but it's a standard that we've committed that we will comply with, meet or exceed. And our goal is to be better. We tout ourselves as award-winning governance. What it really means is we think that, and others have recognized that what we do works. The other nuance to this is on executive compensation is we work in a credit union system. And the FICOM guideline applies to all credit unions in British Columbia. And I can tell you some credit unions, particularly some of the smaller ones, are having difficulties with executive compensation disclosure. They're in smaller towns. They may, you know, it will be front page news in some instances. And that's going to put that credit union and that CEO in or general manager in a difficult position. So, and I appreciate you didn't know this, but one of the reasons we're trying to emphasize that we will meet or exceed FICOM's guidelines is that the credit union system as a whole in British Columbia has to address this. And we want to be in concert with our other credit unions and not do something. So I apologize for the nuances, but there's a bigger context to it.
But Glenn, I do understand those nuances, and actually what you just said was in my resolution. So again, please explain to me why you would create a second one when they're almost identical?
Because we thought that it better reflected our understanding of the FICOM guidelines.
Thank you.
In any event, CEO compensation will be disclosed next year.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think Tracy's doing a great job. I just think we want to know what you guys are getting paid. So thank you.
She is well and fairly paid, and you'll see her next year.
Hi, I'm Edie Williams. I'm from White Rock. I've been with the bank for 27 years with the credit union, and I've never really gone to a meeting. I hate to tell you this. I've never looked at the voting process. This time I did, and I felt bullied. I felt, when I was reading that, it's like, here's our 3 candidates, and we really prefer these. Here's our resolution. The others are costing you a lot of money. This shouldn't really be happening. I felt like, here's Big Daddy, and he's telling me what to do and what to vote. I didn't like that whole brochure, and I think the next time you do anything like that, it should be phrased differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker at microphone number 1, please.
Ken Jones, White Rock.
Oh, Ken, you kind of slipped up on me there, because we should go through all members who want to speak for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a different topic.
Yeah, I know that, but I think it's fair to the room if people who haven't spoken have an opportunity to speak now, because by the agenda, we're down to our last few minutes of the regular meeting before we go into the members' open forum. So I would ask any members who have a question on reports to step up now. So speaker at microphone number 2, please.
Yeah, I'm a member at the Langley branch, and I've never been to an annual general meeting like this before.
Your name, please, sir?
Oh, it's Stephen Scott.
Thank you, Steve.
And I'm here because of the election process. I was so appalled by the gerrymandering of the election process, where directors are, where the actual names of the preferred candidates are bolded on the ballot. That's like incredibly poor governance practice if you want a fair election. Whereas the candidates that weren't preferred were in a less bold. Whose idea is that? Whose idea of fair is that? I would be, anyways, I was appalled by the whole election process. It made me look into this whole issue of executive compensation. And, your reaction to the questioning of your compensation is really what's the most alarming part of this whole thing, not the amount of money you get paid. I'm willing to accept that you guys do a good job for the money that you get, but the whole reaction to, I think I've got a little time here.
No, I'm just saying thank you for
the whole reaction,
for recognizing the value.
The lawyering up, the getting to the ambiguity of the resolution process by then introducing your own set of resolutions, and then to have the result, it's a draw. Nobody wins. When that happens, you guys have gerrymandered the process, and you guys win. So I'm appalled by the whole election process.
Thank you for your comment, and I'm reluctant to have anybody respond, because we're just going to be talking about the same responses or similar responses, and we'd rather hear from you, from members. So I will go to the speaker at microphone number 2. I don't believe you've spoken yet, sir? No. Okay, please.
William Lim, Roundhouse, area branch. I'd like to ask a question. What is the wisdom? What is the wisdom for including page 3, the content in page 3 of the booklet, vote now? I find it most troublesome when you have a heading like "Our Success Under Threat," and then on the second paragraph under that, there's everything said over there is bad, and I'm speaking is that these individuals are aligned with a small special interest group known as Coast Capital Compensation Watch. Their name is misleading. Their group is not the voice of your credit union. It represents the view of only few supporters, not Coast Capital, finding 12,000 members. I'm thinking of, it was Pierre Elitudo some of them maybe not been born on. He was said that the position of the minority should not be completely stamped down underfoot just because the majority holds another view. Because the essence of democracy is that even the voice of one, you should respect it. When you make a statement like that, it's almost like putting down. Now, I understand that when Newfoundland wanted to join Canada, it has actually just slightly over 50%. And that's why even today, you still have people in Newfoundland wanting to separate from Canada. When you make a statement like this, that's saying that their name is misleading. Their group is not the voice of your credit union, and it's representing a special vested interest group. I think that, it tells not so much about this group, it tells me much about you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And there are processes.
Incidentally, are we expecting a lynching party organized by you to lynch all those people now?
No, not at all. There is a process that is available. When we do our Seeking Qualified Candidates brochure, we ask members for resolutions, and that is the normal channel where resolutions are expected to come in. In this case, the organization you referred to went through a petition process to bring forward resolutions which the board didn't believe were in the best interest of Coast Capital, so it developed corresponding resolutions which it believed would serve Coast Capital better. So that's the reason why there were competing resolutions. Speaker at microphone number 2, please.
Lord Malin, I'm a member of the Newton Branch. A couple of quick fire questions for you, probably for the person who was responsible for the voting for the resolutions. Am I correct in when I'm remembering from back when I read the pamphlet that for every resolution there had to be a yes or a no vote registered on every single package that was sent in? Is that correct?
No.
No.
No, just director elections. The rules require in director elections.
Not for the director, just for the resolutions.
Other way around.
The rules require that for director elections, members are required to vote for the number of vacancies there are on the board. In the case of special resolutions, they can vote for 1, 2, or none, or all.
Okay, so if you just voted yes for the last 4 resolutions, then your ballot was counted?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Speaker at microphone number 2.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board and fellow members. My name is Phil Embley, so I'm the founder of Compensation Watch. And Mr. Chairman, I wanted to address one of the remarks that you made earlier, and I think that there really has to be some clarification here and some understanding from all of the members as to what the background here is to how all of this started. In 2012, I was looking through some reports, and I came across this well-hidden compensation that the directors of Coast Capital were receiving. When I found that out, I wrote to Coast Capital, and I asked them for a way of dealing with this, and what I suggested to them is that the members did not know that this huge compensation was being given to the directors because, as I say, it was hidden. It was not easily found. I have a financial background, and I was doing some snooping around that probably nobody else would do. Anyway, I found this out, asked the board if they would allow the members with the 5 years of hindsight and the fact that there were now about 140,000 new members, if we could have a vote and review this. I think that was a pretty normal request to make, since the chairman had increased his salary from 2006 from $33,200 to in 2009 to over $178,000 without the members knowing. It seemed to me like it was a pretty fair request. The answer that I got was no. This had been voted on by the members in 2007 and had been overwhelmingly approved. Now, what I want to point out to the members is when the director or when the chairman goes back and says that the 2007 remuneration philosophy forms the basis of their compensation and it has the members' approval, I want to point out this, that in 2007, when this was voted on, I think about 7,000 members voted for that. It could have been 7,000 members voted in that election, and I think it was 4,000, a little over 4,000 members that approved that. So the basis of the director's remuneration that they're all making this stand about is that, oh, it's approved by the members. It's actually approved by less than 1% of us. 1%, there's about 4,000 members that voted in favor of that resolution, and now there's over 500,000 of us. And now we're fighting with these directors, and we've gone through last year. Now, this year, when they trashed us in their outrageous book that was way over the top and did Coast Capital no service at all. I mean, I think members have the right to put forward resolutions that they think are going to improve our credit union. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to hurt Coast Capital, as suggested in the book. So,
Mr. Embley, you've gone well past your 3 minutes. Do you want me to respond? I shall respond.
You know, I just want to say one thing, Mr. Welburn, is that you have rigged this election, and you've done it legally. Hats off for you on that. I do want to say one other thing, though. I do say that, last year we did point out that there was no effort at all on the behalf of Coast Capital to get the vote out. There was this year. I appreciate the effort that you've made, but yes, I know that you don't like this story, Mr. Welburn, but, and you're going to cut me off, and that's fine. I accept that. You're the chairman. I accept your ruling, but this is a sad situation for Coast Capital that's developing here.
You know, respectfully, Mr. Embley, I do believe you've mischaracterized the events. When the board brought forward through the governance committee a resolution to establish a director remuneration philosophy, it was done with complete transparency. We presented it at a meeting. We demonstrated to the members the impact that would have by specific examples that we could go to with top paid cooperatives and the bottom quartile public companies like Canadian Western Bank and others. We put the numbers up on the chart. We explained what the impact would be. Now, for you to say, and we also agreed that we would publish what each director is paid. We're the only, at the time, the only credit union in Canada that I know of that had the courage to not only say how they're going to determine their compensation through a member-approved philosophy, but then published line by line how much each director got paid. It was on the website, and I've found anybody can click through and find that information. It's come back to me that it's there. So for you to say that it's hidden is a mischaracterization. This will be our last speaker before we go into the members' open forum.
My name's Ken Jones, and I'm from the White Rock branch. One of the smallest branches, by the way, and very much in need of some better facilities. The other thing I wanted to ask is a technical question. This is on the internet, I understand.
Yes.
Could you tell me, is there any more than the one camera at the back of the room that's recording this?
I didn't make the arrangements. He's shaking his head no. So it's one camera.
So therefore, the people speaking at the microphones only get the back of their head shown to the public out there.
Unless you want to turn around and smile. There you go. Yeah. You know, we try.
My real question.
But just, you know, you raise a point, and to try to keep the cost of the meeting contained, I guess we went to one camera. Earlier days, I think we did have 2 cameras, but the important thing is that people can hear what you're saying.
Yes. I'm very, very concerned when we hear, and I know Glenn Wong is a very competent leader in our community, has been a very able businessman, and provides a very good job on the board as far as I can hear. But I am very concerned when I hear him using the term Coast Capital versus the membership. Basically, he's talking about the Coast Capital's position versus the membership's version of, or their viewpoint. Coast Capital only has one viewpoint, and that means the board is supposed to be speaking what the membership want. There is not a separate way of interpreting how this operations of this credit union should be by a group of people who have been elected, honored by being elected to the board of directors. I'm speaking as a former board of directors of a predecessor Surrey Credit Union.
Yeah, point taken. And just to, not that my colleague needs defending, but when he says Coast Capital, he's talking about the board of directors, which is the duly elected body of the membership.
But it shouldn't be different.
Well, the members elect individuals. They listen to the members.
To represent us.
Yeah, to represent you, but when they come to the boardroom, as you know, they're required to act in the best interests of the credit union.
Yes.
And that's what we endeavor to do at all times.